Hi, Sonia Rollins with BACC. I am excited to be here today with Scott Weiss of the Gutierrez Company. Scott, thank you for joining us.
How you doing?
I'm glad to have you here because today marks a very cool show. So 5 years ago, we started our first BACC show, and 5 years ago, you were my first guest. So thank you for being back on our anniversary show.
I cannot believe it's been 5 years.
Isn't that unreal?
Is crazy to think about. And so much has happened, obviously.
Yes.
Pandemic, of course, but
Right.
so much has happened in 5 years.
It's unbelievable.
It's crazy to think that it's been that long, and obviously you and just being here in the studio is different than it was 5 years ago.
I know. We've got to sing BACC's praises for a minute because truthfully, when you were here 5 years ago, we were in a different studio, same building, different studio.
Yeah.
And just the technology has changed and things we've done here has changed. So thank you to BACC for doing that, right?
Yeah. No, what a terrific group, and the amount of information that you can find on BACC. Just locally, governmental, all the channels, all the programming that they do, it's pretty fabulous.
Impressive.
Yeah.
I know. So happy anniversary to them too.
That's
Longer
right.
than 5 years, but for us, 5 years.
5 years, and congratulations to you. What a great show.
Yeah, thank you. We enjoy it. I mean, it's kind of nice to be able to talk about different things with the community and highlight the chamber, but really highlight our members, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with that, Scott, because not only has the Gutierrez Company been around for a whole lot longer than 5 years,
right.
We've said this 5 years ago, I'll say it again, one of the first members of what was then the Burlington Business Roundtable and now the Burlington Area Chamber of Commerce. You guys were one of the founders, really.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I mean, the company's now pushing 45 years. Very long history in the town of Burlington. That's really our roots and where we do most of our work. It's something that is close to my heart and my perspective on how you build real estate company is to really be involved in deep in the community that you're located in, you work in, you're there and you repeat and and this is what we're doing is over and over again to be part of the community and delivering projects that we're proud of, the community's proud of, and we're working together to really make Burlington, a great place to live, work, and play, eat, and shop, and all of it.
No, it's true, and you've done it so well, really. I mean, I think it's hard. You're hard pressed to say that Gutierrez isn't involved in a lot of things in the community, even on a business stance, on a community stance. You really understand that idea of being involved and ingrained in the community. So on behalf of us, those of us that live here, thank you for that. But on behalf of the chamber, thank you, because you've always been supportive of the chamber, which is really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and please,
go ahead.
You.
No, we really see the chamber as a vital part of that configuration of, certainly the town, the community, the residents are an important part, but having the involvement of local residents in the chamber, the businesses in the chamber, it really affords the opportunity for great dialogue and communication back and forth to be able to understand what's happening in the marketplace, how it affects the community, how the community is responding to various things in no uncertain terms. That really made the process of weathering a storm like the pandemic, which is unfathomable 5 years ago when we were sitting here.
Yes.
Really made Burlington collectively, residents and community, able to do things that I think a lot of other communities weren't able to do. And,
no, I agree with you.
And it's been a challenge. There's definitely very difficult times, restaurants and retail and certainly office space, and a lot of residents and a lot of pain for a lot of people. But the way to navigate and get through has been, not that we're out of it or it's over, but certainly amazing to see what the town has been able to do.
It's true, and we're going to touch on that a little bit more
Sure.
in a second. But before that, for those who have not really come to know you, you are a staple in the community. For those who are at town meeting, of course, you've presented there before. You've been with the Gutierrez Company now for...
God, close to 15 years.
15 years,
Yeah.
Amazing, right?
Yeah, I can't believe that.
You started when you were 20?
Yeah,
well,
12. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good, all right, I'll go with it. But, I always like to tell people, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself, because I think what people, those of us who are involved a little bit more, you know, we know people personally and we know about them. But it's nice for people to know who only see you as, you know, Scott Weiss of the Gutierrez Company. You know, talk a little bit about yourself, Scott.
Sure. So I have personally an engineering background, so that can be tough for those people who have to listen to me think I'm always right about something because I'm an engineer, right? But that really has grounded me in how real estate and commercial development works and the impacts in the communities. And moved into the real estate side of the business probably about 20 years ago now,
Yeah.
and then joined the Gutierrez Company family business, which really fits really well with my perspective, as we've talked about, in terms of not only the approach internally in the company, but how we operate. We're located here in Burlington, where we've built over 2 million square feet. We probably have another 1 million square feet of different projects, either recently completed or underway. And that's not all new buildings.
Right.
Some of it's renovations and things like that. And then I myself have served on local boards like planning boards and
Yes.
committees.
In your community.
In my community, not currently and haven't for a few years, but with the kids a little bit older, that's something I'm looking at actually doing again. But but so I understand the perspective of the community and sitting locally and evaluating projects that come before us, as well as the concept of obviously presenting to those boards, as I've done for a number of projects here.
Because because that's important. You know, when
Sure.
you're presenting a project, the beautiful part of it is you're presenting it on behalf of the company, of course, and you're presenting it on behalf of the betterment of the business community, but the betterment of the business community has a direct correlation to the betterment of the community as a whole and the residents. So having that kind of experience kind of gives you both sides of the coin, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I definitely can see, and maybe it's not always the same exact perspective that somebody on the board may have when I'm presenting in front of them, but I can see and understand where they may be coming from, and I don't see it as sitting on opposite sides of the table, but the same side, and we're all moving forward, hopefully, to the same thing. We create great projects that people in the community can be proud of, maybe companies and services and opportunities, restaurants and things that the community is happy to have locally. The tax base helps.
Yes.
They're proud of the corporations that may be located here.
Absolutely.
And then we all look at it and can say that's great. Let's do that again. Let's do more of that. Let's do this time. Let's learn from this, and we're working together on this. So I think it's been a great relationship here in Burlington. It's not the only place we work, but it is the place where we probably do more than anywhere else. And there are a lot of development companies that are located, throughout the area where they may do one project and never be seen by a community again, or they're located somewhere and they don't want to work where they're located.
Yes.
That's not the concept that we have. We really are ingrained part of the community. We're not a flashy type of business. The Gutierrez Company is always a little bit under the radar, but we like to participate and be part of the community where we're located.
Absolutely.
And that's something that I'm personally very proud of and happy to be able to represent too.
Of course. And okay, so ingrained in a community that's been around a long time. The company's been here. We know what we're doing here. And then 5 years ago, things are going well. We're starting to see a pickup in things. Class A office space is good and everything's going well. And then the inevitable happens that we all like to not talk about, but talk about, which is obviously COVID hits.
Sure.
Everything changes dramatically.
Right.
And after our break, we'll talk about that change and what that looks like and what it looks like coming forward. But just talk about the idea for a few minutes, if you wouldn't mind, of when COVID hit and what that means for a company of your size and your tenants.
Sure. Initially when it hit, obviously nobody knew what anything meant.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna close down. The kids were coming home. My kids were in college. They're coming home for 2 weeks.
Right,
You know,
right. Yeah, exactly.
It'll be a 2 weeks shutdown. Here
Right.
we
It'll
are,
be like a
what,
vacation.
yeah,
Yeah.
into the third year now, and
Yes.
it's crazy. Um, but so nobody knew at the beginning what it meant, and we're still learning as we hopefully come out of this and move forward, right?
Right.
As to where we are, and what it means. But we are when it hit, and when we have millions of square feet of office tenants, and everybody is gone, and their buildings are vacant and sitting empty, and then sitting empty for what started as weeks and then months and even years.
Yes.
It became a real challenge. I mean, we're very thankful. We have some great staff. Our building facilities people, you don't think of them as frontline workers, and they're not, but they were there every day trying to keep the space open for maybe the 2 or 5 people that were coming into an office.
Sure.
And so we have people that were definitely never took a break. Our construction projects changed dramatically in terms of protocol, but almost never skipped a beat. We did not shut most construction projects down. They might have temporarily suspended some work in those first couple of weeks, but then adjusted in terms of protocol. The number of people working in certain areas had to be greatly reduced, very much like our restaurant capacities and things like that.
Right.
So there was tremendous change, and like everyone, we had to learn to adjust and flow and make modifications. What became hard hat requirements or what was hard hat requirements and maybe safety vests at a construction site was hard hats and masks and gloves and Purell and hand washing stations at every construction site. Very, different approach, and these things have now become almost more typical and standardized.
Yes.
Even as as masking has really, some of the mandates have lessened and gone away, and some of the numbers of people we have in spaces, but we still have a lot of that hand washing and sign in and protocol, and a lot of that has remained and probably will going forward.
Yeah, and we're gonna, honestly, we just have to hope that we're on the other side of this, and that we're gonna be seeing, we're tired of saying the new norm, but the new norm, right? Which is starting to adapt and come back a little bit.
Sure.
One of the industries that was hit hard, of course, was the restaurant industry, and we were started to get happy to get back out to visit our foodies.
Right.
This, not only is it our 5-year anniversary, but our foodie segment this week touches on the Café Escadrille, which next year will hit 50 years, if you can believe it.
That is
and
unreal.
They are ingrained in the community as well. So
talk about an institution.
Talk about an institution.
Yes.
So we'll be right back after we take a look at the Café Escadrille. Hi everybody, Sonia Rollins here for the foodie segment of BACC Talk. I am honored to be in what everybody considers to be a staple of Burlington, the Café Escadrille. We're going to be able to talk to Mike Murray of the Café Escadrille, as well as see some of the great things that they have to prepare for us today. It is really one of the things that those of us who've lived in Burlington for a long time know, a staple of the community. Join me. All right, everybody, we're here with Mike Murray of the Café Escadrille. Mike, thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming.
We're really happy to be inside the Café Escadrille. I was saying it's really like a staple of Burlington. I understand you're celebrating your 50th anniversary next year.
Next year, yeah, 50 years.
It's amazing that it's been here because there's been such an evolution of the restaurant. I really feel like, obviously, it was just the restaurant at one point, and now we're sitting in your event section of the restaurant, so it's really evolved over the years.
Yeah, it really has. So the original restaurant was opened in 1973, so that'll be 50 years. But the function facility that we're in right now opened in 2003, so that'll be 20 years.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the events first, and we'll get to the restaurant, because that really is the highlight of it. But the events section is quite remarkable, because the Café Escadrille offers something that I don't think there's much of in Burlington. I mean, how many people can you hold in the ballroom?
In the ballroom, we can do up to 300 people.
300 people. When you think about the Escadrille and you think about restaurant space, there's really not many places where you can get 300 people in the room in Burlington.
Right. We can get the people over on this side of the building, have a special event, and still do our regular business, where other places might have to shut down part of their dining room to do an event or something along those lines. It's not fully private. We can keep people private and separated, and we have a separate line in our kitchen that's dedicated to putting the food out for this side, and then another one for the restaurant.
Separate parking.
Separate parking, right.
And yes, 300 people, but you service a whole lot of other things.
Yeah, we do events from 12 people, private events from 12 people to 300 plus people, depending on the event.
I mean, I want to thank you because you're always a huge supporter of the Chamber of Commerce. We've had our black tie galas here. We've had the taste here. I mean, there's been a lot of things that have happened within Burlington that have had different things. You've always been part of all of these events with us.
Yeah, no, we're happy to be able to contribute to that type of thing.
Yeah, and so let's talk about the restaurant because that really is the special spot. I mean, this side has its own feel because of the eventing, but the restaurant itself, there are some staple things in the restaurant that have been always going on. But there's also now sushi at the bar, which I'm not sure people really would connect the two if they don't come into the Escadrille.
If they didn't know, they wouldn't know. You know, we're not, you know, an Asian restaurant that would, you know, you would typically think of for sushi, but our sushi chefs are great. You know, I'd put them up against any other sushi chefs in the area. They do a great job putting it out, and everyone raves about it when they do find out that we have it and they come in, and it really has worked out well for us. It's just a different thing just to try to mix it up so that we have something for everyone, and that's like what our menu really is trying to have something for everyone.
Our seafood fettuccinis is one of the items that we sell a lot in here, and that is Alfredo sauce with shrimp, lobster meat, and scallops, and a little bit of cherry wine with shallots, butter, and a little bit of heavy cream.
You know, you can come in with your family, your kids can get something that they'll enjoy, or you come in with your parents and get something that they haven't had in a long time. They might not be able to get at a lot of other places.
That's one of our specials for the day today. It's a pot roast. It's been cooked for like 6 hours, probably more. And we serve with the burgundy gravy, mashed potato, and green peas. The veal Catherine, it is veal cutlets, sauteed with butter, shallots, a little bit of cherry wine, heavy cream again, and finished with Madeira wine. And it has a foot lobster tail, 2 16-20 shrimp, and artichoke hearts.
And the layout of the Escadrille, so it's classic restaurant. You walk in and you kind of feel like you're home because it's that spot that everybody's been used to at the Escadrille. But the thing that I really have always been impressed on is the size of the bar, the ability to be able to sit around it. Everybody can see each other. It's a very social climate. Yeah. I know you have a pretty extensive wine list.
Yeah, we have probably one of the biggest wine lists in Burlington, if not the greater Boston area. We have over 400 different wines, from selections by the glass to selections by the bottle, ranging from every type of wine you could possibly look for. We have an in-house sommelier, you know, so anyone comes in with a question, they can make sure that they're going to get the wine that's right for them if they want to try something new or if they found something that they've enjoyed before.
And then for those of us who aren't wine drinkers but maybe on the Scotch side,
yeah, we have quite a whiskey list, so Scotch, bourbon, rye, Irish whiskeys, Tennessee whiskeys, all of that. We have too many to count.
Do you think that's gotten more popular?
It has, especially like the bourbons. I think it used to be like you thought about the whiskeys and like Scotches and Tennessee whiskeys, but the bourbons and the rye have really picked up recently over the last probably 10 years or so.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of different ones coming out now too, so you got to try to keep up with the trends.
You know, okay, so now I always ask this question of people. If you were ordering food at the Escadrille, what's your go-to?
I love all the food here, but if I had to go with my go-to, it would be the prime rib, because not a lot of other places do it because it's kind of hard to manage. You know, you have to cook it in advance, and you have to decide how many orders you're going to make in advance. So some places just don't do it; they don't want to bother with it. But other places that do, it's just, I don't know. To me, it doesn't hold up.
The lamb lollipops, I would put that up against any restaurant. Boston, Burlington, it doesn't matter. Phenomenal, and that's not an easy thing to really make.
No.
Lamb is a tough one.
Right.
You have a signature Caesar salad.
Yes, that we've been making for probably almost 50 years, and it's, you know, been award-winning. We've, you know, won awards with that, and our clam chowder is award-winning too. If you were to come here and you weren't able to find a menu item that you thought you'd like, I would be very, very surprised.
I hope you enjoyed today's segment as much as I did. Everybody who knows the Café Escadrille knows it's been a staple in this community for now almost 50 years. As Mike said so perfectly a little earlier, there is something for everyone inside the walls of the Café Escadrille. For BACC Talk, I'm Sonia Rollins. All right, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Congratulations to the Café Escadrille, 50 years in Burlington. It's an impressive institution, for lack of a better term, right?
I'm hungry now. I want to get that.
I know. exactly. I wasn't kidding. The lamb lollipops there are outstanding. And then it's supposed to be an appetizer, which means philosophically you're supposed to share it. I'm always like, do you really want one of these? But it is what it is. So anyway, thank you to the Café Escadrille. Thank you to all the restaurants who really held strong during an incredible time. Before we went away to our foodie segment, we were talking about, you know, the change of how business is done and really the evolution of what, you know, people aren't working the same way they used to work, Scott, and the uses, for those of us who understand zoning and things like that, different uses are allowed in different areas in Burlington. Talk about what I believe is now the up and coming, or really has come, and now Burlington is doing this, you know, thanks to a collaboration with everybody involved. But talk about life sciences and what that means for the town now.
Sure. So just a little bit of the pandemic thought and what that's done. So there were definitely changes in the marketplace that you saw, people, you know, working from home, and a change in the retail environment pre-pandemic.
Yes.
The pandemic served as that accelerant, right? That really changed things so rapidly, where people, the work from home process, you know, people shopping, you had grandmas and grandpas ordering online that weren't even online before that. But so it's changed the nature of the industry, and those changes are, as I mentioned, they were happening, but happening a little bit more slowly. The pandemic forced that change to happen so quickly, and there's been so many entities that had to adjust from it. So the work from home thing is certainly something that I don't think is going away. We're back in the office, but we have a much more flexible schedule, and I think more of our tenants are doing that, where they're working remotely part of the time, in the office other times. Your office places become meeting space more so, and a reason to go to the office to meet and maybe have that amenity area in your space. So it's changed that. But one of the things that can't be done from home, and we've talked about this, is the life science work, the laboratory work.
Right.
And through this time frame, even heading into it, I think 2019 was a big change. Certainly bringing Millipore Sigma into the community in 2017-ish was a big landing of a life science company in the community. 2019 town meeting approved changes to zoning that really helped spur, and then there were some additional ones in 2020, 2021 that really has put Burlington in the platinum level of Massachusetts Biotechnology Council. Mass Bio has a rating for communities. Burlington's now platinum, the top of the rating list.
Which is great to hear.
Which is terrific. And Burlington was kind of seen as an emerging biotech-ready community, and I would say now we've emerged. Beautiful. Right? We are in demand, which is terrific. We took a building for Burlington Woods, which was built as an office building, spent over $10 million just to convert it to be ready for life science companies. Fully leased now. And it's important because it's leased, that's a smaller building, leased to some of the small companies. So you have Millipore Sigma, big, large company, I'm sure you've heard, Vericel and Broad Institute coming to Burlington, big companies which land here. But it's important to have those small companies that nobody's ever heard of their names, because that's what Moderna was, you know, years before the pandemic. Nobody had heard of them. Exactly. And these companies maybe someday will be that household name, but it's important to have that growing, vibrant, large company, small company opportunities in the community. So we've never been more excited about the potential of life science in Burlington. So we've done 4 Burlington Woods. That's being finished internally, and companies will be opening their offices in the next couple of months. We acquired 10 Corporate Drive, an existing office building, converting that where the tenant was leaving or has left, and converting that to be life science ready. Looking at the last building on what is the Keurig campus. Keurig, it's not a Keurig building, but that was always a 3-building campus, and looking at kicking that off for more life science companies, and that will allow for a broad range of companies, you know, from small to medium to large size, and that makes Burlington, you know, puts us really strongly on the map of the life science industry, and that brings people into work, which helps fill the office space and the hotel space and
the retail climate and the restaurant climate.
It all works together. Even 5 years ago, I'm sure we were talking about that, how it's a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
Everybody benefits when they're all here together.
Yes.
And it does become a dynamic environment where there are people who can live in the community, work in the community, dine in the community, and shop in the community. All works together. And the changes that the community has made and town meeting has been right there all along, helping to advance and think about this process and make changes necessary to, like the recent one for experiential retail. The future of retail is going to be different. Things that you don't need to hold and feel beforehand, you're going to order online. So what is that retail environment that you have? And let's think about it. And the town's been very forward thinking, which they need to be. You don't want to be doing this when the mall sits vacant after 5 years and trying to figure out what to do with it. Let's incrementally make changes along the way. And so from the retail to the lab space that's coming, it's terrific and it's exciting. It's exciting to see how we collectively come out of the pandemic with these changes, with new users and helping to keep our commercial space fresh and occupied and in use.
It's really a proactive thought process as opposed to a reactive. And like you said, the pandemic forced us to be reactive to a certain degree, right?
Sure.
But some of that was something that we now learned how people are functioning, and then the proactive part kicks in, which is where the zoning changes really helped, and the collaboration, I guess I'll say, between things like a municipality, private entities, the residential base, and things like the chamber that like kind of wrap it all together and kind of have everybody together working. Right. Because I do believe like attracts like. I mean, you know, it's one of those things where, like you said, the larger companies are here, but the smaller ones matter too. They're all kind of gathering together, and someday the smaller one may very well be that bigger one who comes up with the thing that is so needed during a pandemic, like a Moderna, right?
That's right.
I mean, it's kind of remarkable, for lack of a better term. All right, we have a couple of minutes left. I'm going to ask the big question. Where do you see, if crystal ball stuff, Scott?
Sure.
We're not going to hold you to it, although 5 years from now, maybe you and I maybe we'll be sitting here.
Yeah.
But, if you were to say something going forward for Burlington, what would be the next step for going forward?
Sure. Well, the idea of taking the spaces that we have, and I think certain areas of town have done a good job of this, is being more integrated and mixed use. Yes. And visioning our spaces, especially, look, we have some great residential areas in town. I know the town center, yes. There's a lot of work. You in your past have worked yes. really hard. I think those are great areas, and you want to keep them residential. And the commercial corridors, which are Middlesex Turnpike and Mall Road and Cambridge Street towards the highway, and in those areas, thinking about them as a more sort of local village, kind of urban village kind of environment where there is housing, which has already been added, and that's going to be more dense housing yes. Than a single family house, but you have some apartments and condos, and the idea that you can come right outside and pick up your coffee as you walk down the street to your place of employment is great, or into your lab. Yes. So as we think about the next 5 years, that integration and more walkable, I'll give a shout out to Kristen Kasner, the town planner, has been great about thinking about what are those next things. Let's make sure everything is walkable. Let's make sure we're ready for the lab environment. And as we go forward, it's going to be that combination of lab and high tech. Yes. And how those things come together, and as we're ready for this. So maybe it's not just the biologics and the pills that we take, but also the components of something high tech that's joined with that is going to be fabulous, and being ready for that industry is going to be important as well.
All right, we're going to be ready. Scott Weiss, the Gutierrez Company, thank you for joining me again 5 years later.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and happy anniversary to BACC, and thank you to BCAT for hosting us for this long, and we're looking forward to doing many more great shows. For BACC, I'm Sonia Rollins.
Thank you.